Hello. Please, everybody, please sit down or stop talking. Hello, back there. Okay. Yes, I'd like to present Monsignor Richard Antal from Holy Name Church and Father Tom O'Donnell, formerly of Holy Name Church. They want to say a few words first, and here they are.
Don't worry, it won't be more than 2 hours, okay? That's what Father O'Donnell thought. I just want to congratulate Pete and also this whole community for his sterling service here. And I thought a reading from Romans would talk about the inspiration that has been part of Pete's inspiration and should be all of ours also. This is from Romans 12. Your love should be completely sincere. Hate what is evil, hold on to what is good. Love one another warmly as brothers, and be eager to show respect for one another. Work hard, do not be lazy. Serve the Lord with a heart full of devotion. Let your hope keep you joyful. Be patient in your troubles, and pray at all times. Share what you have with needy brothers and sisters, and open your homes to strangers. Ask God to bless those who persecute you. Yes, ask Him to bless, not to curse. Be happy with those who are happy. Weep with those who weep. Have the same concern for everyone. Do not be proud, but accept humble duties. Do not think of yourselves as wise. If someone has done you wrong, do not repay him with a wrong. Try to do what everyone considers to be good. Do everything possible on your part to live in peace with everybody. I think that's part of what Peter's tried to do, what we should all try to do. And so remembering his service, we thank God for that. Now Father O'Donnell is going to give a blessing.
That was a blessing. If he just turns it off, right? Wouldn't that be the best? That goes with the 2 hours that we're going to kneel on the ground and have quiet time. Oh, I'm glad there's no guns in here because we would be in big trouble. Especially I would be in most trouble. Maybe a little for Father or Monsignor Antal, but I know big time they'd be wanting to wipe me out. So I'm glad if you left the weapons, that would be pretty good. God bless Kathy and Pete. We ask God's blessings upon them and blessings upon all who gather here today. What a beautiful day. And what a wonderful celebration. Congratulations to both of them, and especially to Pete, as he wraps things up here and moves on to the next chapter. So let us pray. Well, loving God, we ask you to bless and be with us all. Pour out your Spirit upon this whole company, and especially on our sister and brother who celebrate here today. We thank you, God, for their goodness and for all that they are and all that they have been. What wonderful friends, and so many here. This is really something special, Lord. So bless them and be with them always. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Monsignor, Father. That was very moving. Now, I guess the fire department has something to say to me. I'm not sure. Actually, this is the last time anybody's going to see me in this uniform, and some of you have never seen me in this uniform, so I thought this would be apropos as a finale. So here comes Lieutenant Steve Harris to say a few words.
Although, Pete, you don't have to listen to my order, you have to stand still right there, okay? On behalf of the Cuyahoga Heights Fire Department, Local 702 in the village of Cuyahoga Heights, I just wanted to present Pete with this his retirement badge that he can show around the campfire. I'm sure he'll be around the campfire soon. Also, it was really nice to see a lot of the former firefighters and union members that we've had in the past. I've noticed that all of the retired guys that I see here tonight are all smiling. So Pete, I hope you'll be smiling too, that you don't have to get up and go to work every third day. Police officers, don't get mad. We do go to work every third day. You guys have to go to work every day. You took the wrong test. Don't get mad. But on a serious note, Pete, officially, yes, here's your badge and your wallet. And then personally, it has been an absolute pleasure of mine to be able to work with Pete over the years. I was lucky enough to be on his shift when I first got on. We sparked up a pretty good friendship. Pete's helped me along the way on some difficult decisions in life, and it was really, really good to have someone to talk to about those things. And then later on, I ended up being his officer, and we had some, again, really good conversations driving to and back from different calls and all that. And again, really, really enjoyed my time, both officially as a fellow firefighter and then personally with you also. So I'm really, really happy for you and Kathy. Don't be a stranger, stop in again, but I'm really happy for you.
Thank you, Steve. I feel the same way. We had a great relationship there at work, and I'm sorry that it had to come to an end so soon. So it goes. I'm here, and I wanted to say a few words about my career that spanned 33 years. I thank everybody here for coming and celebrating with me and Kathy my career and retirement from the Cuyahoga Heights Fire Department. I was a firefighter for 33 years and 31 years as a paramedic. That's a long time. I can hardly believe that many years have gone by since I was sworn in by then Mayor Ralph Conapelli on May 5th, 1985. Thank you, Ralph. My career has spanned more than half my life, and I would just like to reflect and talk briefly about my time as a firefighter and paramedic over all these years. There's so much I could talk about, but I'll try to be succinct. Initially, I didn't plan on being a firefighter. Rather, I somewhat fell into my career through a combination of luck and personal choices. Prior to becoming a firefighter, I had spent a number of years working in the energy sector in the Rocky Mountains in various states, particularly Wyoming and Utah. It was exciting work for a young man, especially the oil exploration jobs I had. Every day I was being flown in and out of the mountains by helicopter. This all came to an end when the economic recession of 1982 and 84 hit. Exploration came to a complete halt. Rather than staying out west, I decided to come back here and stay with my mom, who was a widow living alone. While I contemplated what to do next, I worked part-time for Village at the service department. The service director was Jim Crooks, at the time a great guy who I had known since I was a kid. One day I found out that the Village was giving an entrance exam for the fire department. Because I was planning on going out west again, I didn't plan on taking the test. However, several of my friends and my mom convinced me to take it. Rather than burning my bridge behind me by not taking the test and then possibly regretting my decision, I signed up. I reasoned I could always turn down the position later if I did well enough to be accepted for the job. As it turned out, I did do well. I wasn't top of the list, but there were enough openings coming available within the next 2 years, which is the valid period of the test, that I was offered a job. Although I still wanted to return to the West, I decided that I would accept this opportunity that had been offered to me. Once again, if I didn't like the job, I could always leave. As it turned out, I never did leave until now. Ironically, during my first year as a firefighter, 2 firefighters who each had been there 10 years resigned and left. The first several years as a firefighter, quite busy with training and education. I first went to fire school for 5 weeks, where I studied and learned to use all the various firefighting equipment, including air tanks, masks, ladders, hoses, pumps, etc. Fire school culminated with an actual house burn, and we fire cadets applied everything we had learned to control and put it out. Next came EMT school, which is an extremely high level of first aid. This lasted 3 weeks. Then there was an interval of time that passed before I went to paramedic school. Of course, we would have daily training at the firehouse during my shift. And if an emergency were to occur, I would be in the front lines along with a seasoned firefighter to give me guidance. Back then, I was one of the younger guys in the fire department. When I left at the end of May, I was the oldest. In stunned disbelief, I asked myself, how did this happen? Returning to my education, I was enrolled in paramedic school, which lasted for 9 months at that time. Now I believe the course is even longer. Becoming a paramedic entails not only an incredible amount of studying both in and out of the classroom, but it also requires many hours of clinicals. By clinicals, I'm referring to hands-on application of the skills that we were learning in different settings. For example, I had to ride on the squads of different fire departments and assist in whatever needed to be done for the corresponding patients. The greatest amount of clinicals occurred at the hospital, where I had to work in the emergency room, intensive care, newborns, even the operating room. There, under the immediate supervision of the anesthesiologist, I intubated patients, that is, placing a specialized airway tube down an unconscious patient's throat just prior to surgery. In the newborns, I was witness to a baby's circumcision. Oh, he doesn't feel a thing, the doctor told me as the baby was screaming at the top of his lungs. Right. My very first clinical took place in the emergency room and proved to be more exciting than I had anticipated. Barely 30 minutes into my shift, a woman was brought in who was in cardiac arrest. The next thing I know, I'm doing chest compressions on her as the Code Blue team is attempting to revive her. Becoming a paramedic, a person learns to start IVs, give numerous medications, read 12 EKG strips to see what is happening to the heart electrically, and if needed, apply electricity to the heart. Unless the patient is in cardiac arrest, this is usually done on the scene of the squad call before we even begin traveling to the hospital. The back of the ambulance is literally a mini emergency room that arrives right on your doorstep to take care of you. This is quite the health benefit that everyone here has available to them, particularly when minutes might mean the difference between life and death. Having been unsure initially about joining the fire department, I quickly came to enjoy being a firefighter and paramedic. When an emergency call would come in, it was an adrenaline rush, for the trucks and the ambulances would rush out the door with lights flashing and sirens blaring en route to the latest emergency. It's not to say I wanted bad things to happen, but if something was wrong, we were on the way to fix it, or at least hopefully to keep it from getting worse. We were there to do good, to help those who were in distress. That fact gave me a strong feeling of accomplishment. What could be better than helping others? Of course, not every day is full of drama. Many days are mundane, and calls that we respond to, although urgent, aren't necessarily an immediate emergency. For example, a power line on the ground, or someone who's fallen and can't get up. Of course, these calls have to be addressed, but at least they were not of immediate life and death. There are numerous times that the job is hardly boring. In fact, that's one of the interesting things about the job. Every day is different. You never know what's going to happen next. We've had some very interesting runs over the years. One time we had to rescue a man who had passed out on the roof of LTV steel, some 50 to 60 feet up in the air. My partner, Ray Smozarski, and I had to climb a number of stairs carrying various equipment to get to the roof of the steel mill. Once there, we used ropes and a stretcher to get him to the edge of the roof. Remember, Ray? We lowered him down to the ground using the aerial truck and its extended aerial platform, and then transported him to Metro Hospital in the ambulance. Another time, we had a train car fire that we extinguished. The fire started in Cleveland, but by the time the train came to a halt, it was in Cuyahoga Heights, with the caboose completely engulfed in flames. On my collage over there, There's a photo of the firefighters in front of the train after we put out the fire. Of course, we've been to numerous car accidents over the years, particularly given the amount of traffic that uses I-77. I can't tell you how many times we've been down there over the years. We've had to climb into cars many times to excavate people. If an accident happens on a weekend night, alcohol is often involved. Sometimes the patient will be belligerent towards us. One such incident occurred when a car was flipped over on its roof on I-77 late at night. The lone occupant, a young woman, was lying unconscious on her back on the inside of the roof. My partner, Randy Piasecki, and I crawled inside on our stomachs amidst all the broken glass, dragging a backboard with us to extricate her and protect her spine. As we were pulling her out after placing her on the backboard, she began to regain consciousness, and then she regurgitated. We quickly got into the squad where I began to suction her mouth so she wouldn't choke. She definitely did not like the feel of the catheter in her mouth and subsequently tried to remove it physically while managing to spit out some profanities at me. You effing A, you effing A. I tried to calm her down, all the while thinking, you just totaled your car, you're facing a DWI, you're choking on your own, and you're swearing at the person that's trying to save your life because of your drunken stupidity. Who's the real F&A? Ultimately, we got her to Marymount Hospital. The one car accident that really stands out in my mind was one that occurred about an hour after the New Year. We responded to a car accident on I-77 southbound down by Rexville Road exit. When we arrived, we found a car with 4 occupants, and as far as I can remember, minimal damage to the car. Almost as always at car accidents, the police were on the scene when we arrived. Oh, and by the way, they almost always respond to emergencies and back us up if we need it, and I thank them for that assistance. Anyway, getting back to my story, when we went to question the people in the car, we were astonished to find that the driver had what appeared to be a bullet hole in the forehead with no exit wound. Grace Mozarski and I moved the driver into the squad and took all the emergency measures we could to maintain the driver's vital signs: blood pressure, pulse, blood oxygen concentration. Then we drove rapidly to the hospital. The driver did survive, with the bullet still lodged in his brain. As strange as this incident was, what was even stranger is how it happened. The passenger riding in the front seat got into an argument with the driver and shot a point-blank range while the car was going 60 miles an hour down the freeway. If you're really that ticked off, wouldn't it be better to wait until you were stopped at an exit and ran up and shoot the driver? Unbelievable. Most of the ones we have are medical in nature. They run the gamut from minor, say a cut finger, to diabetes, to stroke, to breathing problems, to chest pain, to full cardiac arrest. The latter, more often than not, ends in fatal outcomes despite our every effort to save the person. The reason being is that time is truly of the essence. If bystanders don't begin CPR prior to our arrival, the person's survival chances decrease dramatically. One such incident happened that resulted in the patient being brought back. When we arrived on the scene, a woman was doing CPR on a man who was lying on his back on the office floor. My partners, Brian Reedy and Brian Baroe, and I rapidly took over CPR and shocked his heart with electricity because it was in a chaotic electrical pattern known as ventricular fibrillation. Incredibly, his heart responded and a normal heart rhythm ensued. We provided post-resuscitative care as we transported him rapidly to the hospital. By the time we left the emergency room, he was speaking to nurses, albeit in a partially confused state. Months later, he came to the firehouse and thanked us personally for saving his life. That was a highlight of my career. Returning from the hospital, we stopped back at the patient's office and personally thanked the woman who had done CPR prior to our arrival. She was just as instrumental in saving him as we were. The moral to this story: learn CPR. The fire station offers classes. The life you save could be that of someone you love. As you can see, being a firefighter or paramedic can be exciting and get the adrenaline flowing. The downside of the excitement is that the job can be dangerous because of the type of situations we deal with. Fortunately, the worst injury that I suffered in my career was a sprained ankle on a mutual aid ambulance call to Cuyahoga Heights when I slipped on some black ice at nighttime. However, early in my career, I barely escaped severe injury and possibly even death at an industrial trailer fire at Apex on Grant Avenue. We had just put out the fire, which had burned out the roof on the industrial trailer. We were in the process of moving some 55-gallon drums inside the trailer to get better access to one of the smoldering walls. Suddenly, the lid came off the drum I was moving. Filled with industrial sodium, it reacted instantly to the moisture in the environment from the water we had used to extinguish the fire. Huge flames were coming out of the top of the drum, like a massive blowtorch right at me. I immediately dropped the drum and exited the trailer as rapidly as I could. Behind me, all I could hear were a series of explosions. When I turned around, the entire trailer was engulfed in flames. From near extinguishment, it was now a raging inferno. That was a truly close call. Now, being assigned to the ambulance has its own inherent dangers. The squad deals with injured and medically ill people. That means we are often exposed to bodily fluids, and we try to take appropriate precautions to prevent contamination. However, we're not always successful. An incident happened to me that was very disconcerting and stressful. We had just placed an unconscious male patient who had earlier experienced a grand mal seizure into the ambulance. I was sitting above his head, leaning over his face, making sure he had a viable airway, that is, that he was able to breathe adequately. Suddenly, he began to awaken, and before I could react, projectile fluid from his mouth sprayed me in both eyes. In the fluid that fell back down, I noticed the presence of some blood. As disgusting as the situation was, this aspect was truly scary. Had I been exposed to HIV? What then? Regardless, I immediately tried to rinse my eyes before anything could conceivably be absorbed through my mucous membranes. At the hospital, St. Vincent, the ER nurses placed me on my back and my eyes were rinsed, irrigated as it's called, with Morgan lenses. Morgan lenses are similar to contact lenses with plastic tubing attached to them. Through the tubing flowed a liter of salt water to rinse my eyes thoroughly. I lay there in the darkness by myself as water flowed into both my eyes, feeling very anxious. Stephanie, the ER receptionist, realizing how upset I was, came and sat by my cot side, holding my hand and comforting me. I am truly grateful for her compassion and empathy. My anxiety level was high. Had I been exposed to HIV? If so, what did that mean for my job? And more importantly, my life? Fortunately, the patient agreed to be tested for HIV, although he was under no legal obligation to do so. His test came back negative. Thank you, God. As firefighters and paramedics, we're always trying to help others, but there are times that, despite our best efforts, we can't. While we deal with people's lives, we also have to deal with people's deaths as well. Over the years, I've seen my share of death. As a consequence, it's made me appreciate life even more. Not to be morbid, but I just want to enumerate a few instances. A young man who killed himself by carbon monoxide poisoning by running the car in his garage. A nurse coming home from work, not wearing a seatbelt, rolling her car on I-77, being thrown from it, and the car landing on top of her. 2 Newburgh Heights police officers dying in a horrendous car crash on East 49th Street. The horrible building explosion that killed 2 workers at Summerly Sewage, one of them the uncle of a Cuyahoga Heights firefighter. The house fire that claimed the life of a longtime resident, Mrs. Ezzo. I knew her from when I was a kid. She was a real nice lady. That was deeply saddening. There were a number of other deaths over the years. However, the most disturbing one for me happened on Christmas Day. It was the evening, night of December 25th. We responded to a mutual aid call to Independence at the interchange of I-480 and I-77. There had been a car that had gone off the road with injuries. When we arrived, we found 2 children on the grass embankment. A 4-year-old girl who was crying. Down the slope from her was a 9-year-old boy who was lying on his back, not moving. He was dead. Near him on the grass was a pair of rollerblades. They had probably been a Christmas present he had received that very morning. That was truly disturbing and distressing to me. Despite these negative and at times horrible events, I'm very grateful I haven't been a firefighter paramedic all these years. I was part of a team effort to help others. My job was totally in sync with the person that I am. The firefighters even help people on their time off. For many years, we sponsored a 50s car show and dance for the Musker District Association. Many of you, I'm sure, came to it and had a good time. We raised over $108,000 for the charity over all those years. We donated every year to the after prom at the school. In recent years, Ray Sklozarski, Steve Harrison, and myself have raised over $1,100 for the American Lung Association by doing the Tower City stair climb. 42 floors, 802 steps, in full turnout gear weighing 52 pounds. 33 years is a long time. It's been more than half my life. My career has spanned 4 mayors, Ralph Conopelli, Louis Bocci, Marilyn Dazinski, and Jack Bocci. I've worked under 5 chiefs, Ken Nichols, Bob Bantel, Lee Zamaya, Neil Cash, and Mike Suey. By my count, I've worked with over 50 firefighters in the department over all these years. All those who were there when I arrived and retired. Sadly, some of them are no longer with us. Out of respect and caring for them, I would just briefly like to say a few words about them. Guido Fontana, an old school guy. His philosophy was that as a firefighter, you eat smoke at times. Maybe it was because he smoked cigarettes, I don't know. You don't need to be wearing a mask when it's just smoldering. Ed Guilfoyle, a soft-spoken man who struck me as a kind soul. Kevin Domzalski, my contemporary and always the jokester. I knew him from when we were kids and we were friends until the end. Lee Billy, always a good-natured guy. I worked with him for many years, first as my lieutenant and then as my captain. He may not have been the most motivated individual when it came to doing housework around the firehouse, to put it mildly, but at the fire scene, he totally knew his stuff. I felt totally safe under his leadership. Rick Waldermarson, a great person who I had many conversations with. We would talk for hours at times about a variety of subjects. Finally, Vic Duber. He was my first captain. When I first joined the department, he took me under his wing, and I felt like he treated me like a son. He was always a person that would be right in there with guys doing whatever needed to be done at work. He was a fine officer and a wonderful person. Although he retired only 2 years after I was on the department, I developed a great respect for the man. He embodied the best in a person. I was glad to have worked with all these guys. May they all rest in peace. In closing, finally, right? I'd like to say that I've had a wonderful career. I've been blessed in my life. My career afforded me time because of my work schedule, 24 hours on, 48 hours off, to pursue my intellectual interests as well as my ability to travel. With the former, I was able to earn 3 degrees at Cleveland State University, a Bachelor and a Master's of Arts in History, and a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology. Traveling, I've done numerous trips in the U.S. and traveled overseas in many different countries. Being on the fire department has given me the opportunity to do these things and made me deeply grateful to the village of Cuyahoga Heights. I've enjoyed helping others as a firefighter and a paramedic. Although this is the last time you will see me in uniform, I will continue the ethic of the firefighter paramedic to try to help others whenever I can. I hope you do the same. Thank you, and may God bless you all. Celebrating with me and Kathy. Please stick around for more food and some great music from Dr. Joe shortly. Thank you.